Hi everyone, the human embodiment of a caffeine overdose here with Rhyme Signatures, the nerdiest music review this side of having been drinking enough coffee today to make even a Finnish person blush a little. And today we're going to be doing a review of the new Aquilus album, Bellum 2. If you go back about 50 years, the concept of the one-man band conjures up very different images to what it does now. You might have had the idea in your head of a guy with a big drum on his back, a ride cymbal on his head, bicycle horns on his shoes, etc., etc. And it was safe to say that the idea was pure comedy, rather than, something anyone would have ever taken anywhere near seriously. Thank goodness, then, that we live in 2024, where the advent of technology and the ease of publication via the internet has not only made being a one-man band much easier, but has also enabled the provision of a full-bodied, maximalist experience that manages to banish any associated stigma into the stratosphere where it firmly belongs. Some of my favourite records in recent years have come from one-man projects, such as Austin Lunn of Panopticon, Michael Mills of Toehider, Ben Sharp of Cloudkicker, and Benjamin Almo Thorsell of Almo. While there may be a few session musicians thrown in here and there to fill in the gaps, they are for the most part largely solo passion projects from wonderfully brilliant individuals, and they have all managed to brighten my little musical world with their talents and creativity. So maybe it's no surprise then that there is a new player in the one-man band world. At least he's new to me anyway. He's arrived at my door, brimming with wintry doom, cinematic breadth, and enough ideas to level a small town. My esteemed listeners, I have discovered Aquilus, and I don't think I'll ever listen to music quite in the same way ever again. Aquilus, the solo project of Melbourne-based Horace Rosenqvist, has been composing music under this alias since circa 2005, with Bellum 2 serving as his third full-length album, following Bellum 1 in 2021 and Griseus in 2011, as well as a smattering of demos and an EP prior to this. The music offered here is difficult to put into one category. To be honest, you might be narrow-minded and say, oh, it's just black metal, but that'd be like calling Liam Perrin's just Worcestershire Sauce, Bluey just a kids' show, or the Tory party just the poison that's killing Britain. All of these things are so much more than their basic descriptions, and Bellum 2 truly comes to life when you realise that this is black metal unlike anything you've likely ever heard before. Cinematic, symphonic, grand and epic in scope and structure, this is poetry in motion, art in wavelength form, and one of the most extraordinary things I've ever heard. To describe Bellum 2 as anything other than one of the most intriguing, well-formed, and shocking albums I've heard in years would be an injustice. This is music that transcends labels and genres and can only be defined as one of the most important things to listen to this year, regardless of where your interests typically lead you. Right, get comfortable, my dearies, for I'm about to get excited. This album really knocked me on my ass on my first listen, but it did take a little while into its running time to do so. This album will reward your patience. It's not a work of art to give up its nuances so easily. No. Bellum 2 will only show off its full potential if you persevere with it. The album does begin with a trio of songs that gives you an idea of what's to come. By Tallow North is your typical intro/mood builder, while Into the Earth is about the most standard of all the songs on here. It has lines from Opeth's Damnation, Early Emperor, and Ulver, but it still manages to feel like it's its own thing. It's a fantastic song, and if the entire album consisted of tracks like this, I'd be content to call it a very good album, but not an amazing one. It's about the most typical black metal you'll find on Bellum 2, and it serves as a test. If you're willing to listen to this, to ride this wave, you'll make your way through the mire and into the real meat, the true magic of the album, and what makes Bellum 2 so unique and noteworthy. Haunting, delicate and introspective piano and violins of A Solitary Demise set the perfect mood, and as we moved on to the first of two 17-minute epics, Nigh to Her Gloam and My Frost-Laden Veil, you'll begin to start seeing the bigger picture. You see, a lot of bands or albums out there will call themselves symphonic varieties of whatever metal subgenre they happen to associate with. But let's be honest, in reality what that often means is, oh look, I put a violin solo here, or I got my mate Luciano Bellissimo to provide some operatic vocals here. And it's always a bit of a letdown, a cop-out if you will. Bellum 2 is true symphonic music. It feels like it was written to be enjoyed in an art house theatre. At times I feel like I need to be wearing a tuxedo and having a pair of opera glasses on just to enjoy the record. The album embraces the idea of a long-form, non-standard musical structuring, all tied together with some of the most brazen orchestrations and fearless demonstrations of just what you can do with this type of music. To describe these two songs blow by blow would be basically impossible. You could never adequately detail the journey that these will take you on, but what's remarkable about them is that every time I've listened to this album, these songs have hit me a little bit differently. I've listened to this music when I've been energized, when I've been tired, when I've been angry, when I've been scared, when I've been happy, and when I've been introspective, and every single time, these same pieces of music have reflected my mood. These same passages have empathetically connected with me in ways I was not prepared for. This is music that will stand the test of time, music that defies commonplace description and bends itself into that rare category of timeless. Whenever you think you can predict where each of these epics are going, they manage to completely subvert what you might be expecting and throw you a curveball. But they manage to tie themselves together in a completely cohesive manner, demonstrating that you can still be creative and unexpected while simultaneously making sense in the grand scheme of things. Honestly, it's absolutely extraordinary, and I don't think I've ever heard anything quite like this. These centerpiece tracks are worth your time on their own, but they only stand as tall as they do with their supporting cast of characters. My Frost-Laden Veil, for example, would not hit as hard as it does without the transitory track of Somber Loom, and the album overall would not resonate as strongly as it does without the base layer foundation of Into the Earth, or the gentle come down of Amidst Sowing Tristesse and The Pillared Dark. The album ultimately works as a sum of its whole parts, even if the two epics are very much the shining beacons that light the way to one of the most affecting and conclusive albums I've heard this decade. So, after all that gussying up of the album I've done, how on earth could I possibly talk shit about it now? In truth, I don't think I can. I can't blame the instrumentation, production, compositions, moods, atmospheres, or any of the other, typical aspects you might do of musical analysis. I will admit, however, that this album will not appeal to everyone. There is little immediacy here, no big choruses, no memorable vocal hooks, and you can't really dip in and out of it. It's the complete ride or go home. So you're kind of devoting an hour of your life every single time you push play. It is a big, complicated, and enriching album, but it's not a happy time, nor is it a record that will appeal to many people outside of its niche. This will most likely be too black metal for casual listeners, and perhaps too classical for true black metal fans. Aquilus has selected a niche, and for better or worse has honed in on it with laser-like accuracy that's honestly both astonishing and slightly intimidating. The album is also perhaps overly focused on the central epics, with a lot of the music surrounding it feeling smaller and less interesting as a result. When I've been listening to the album, I've sometimes found myself almost wishing that the first few tracks would go by faster just so I could get to Nigh to Her Gloam. But I know that jumping in at that point would kind of be, butchering the record's artistry. So, what else can I say about Aquilus' Bellum 2? Now, I heard a lot of buzz about this one leading up to my first listen, but no matter how much praise I saw being doled out, the end result was even better than I was being led to believe it would be. Bellum 2 is unlike anything I've ever heard, combining my favourite parts of black metal with the greatest of modern classical music to create an experience that is exactly that, an experience. Some records are enjoyable, with songs that stick in your brain and grooves that you hum in the shower, sure. Bellum 2 has become ingrained in my very bones, altering my preconceptions of how this type of music should sound. Please get this one in physical format. There really is nothing else quite like this, and this kind of bold, fearless artistry deserves your support and attention. Black metal has quite frankly been changed forever for me, and I simply cannot listen to another album in this genre without inevitably comparing it to this absolutely titanic entry. This is all, of course, guys, just my opinion, so if you loved or hated Bellum 2, please talk to me about your experiences with the album in the comments down below. Please do drop me a thumbs up if you like this video, please do tell your friends about me, and please do throw me a subscription if you've been enjoying my content so far. But until next time, guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures pretty odd.